Brought to you by the BoyleSports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Sam McDonnell here in the studio. We'll be talking to Philippe Auclair at full time at the Bernabéu, where it's currently 66 minutes on the clock, and it's Real Madrid 2, Bayern 2, so 4-3 to Madrid on aggregate, and should Bayern score, then they will go through. Such has been the nature of this game so far, Dan. I'm going to put my neck in the line and say there's going to be another goal, so it almost has a next goal the winner potentially feel about it. It's been a brilliant game. We've said it a few times, but for the benefit of the podcasters joining us, we are in agreement with everyone that this has been a brilliant game.
Yeah, I think it had the classic third-minute goal just to set things off, and it's gone from there. It's strange, though. I mean, this we've spoken about it before. This Madrid team that is like on the verge of greatness, if it's not already there from having retained the trophy, and yet you just feel that anyone involved with the other two semi-finalists, particularly Liverpool, I guess, it's more likely to be Liverpool listening to us here. This Madrid team is just, they're giving teams a lot of reason for encouragement. A lot of reasons to believe that they can, they can hurt them. And I know there's some kind of magic winning formula, but ultimately you break it down. They've got vulnerabilities. That's shown by where they are in their domestic league this year.
Yeah.
And even if they get through this, there's nothing, you couldn't really come out of it and say, well, this is an emphatic, show of strength. It's a good game, but it's been a flawed game too in some ways.
Yeah, Kimmich on 3 minutes, Madrid made a bit of a mess of it. It was a Muller cross, Varane and Ramos didn't deal with very well. It was a really good finish from Kimmich. Benzema scored 2 tonight. The first a header, 28 pass move, brilliant ball from Marcelo, good header from Benzema, and then James has made it 2-2. Benzema scored just after the halftime break. It is funny when we're talking about such an elite level and some of the best footballers in the world, just the laughing stock that was the Benzema second goal.
And essentially like 3 goals from crosses tonight, and a sort of a comical back pass to Liso, mix up between himself and the keeper, between Ulreich, that led to a goal. And then James again, almost a second ball from across, rebounding to him.
Yeah.
There's been some good passages of play in the build up, but you're not talking about sort of free flowing movements and brilliance that you're going to be talking about sort of in years to come. It's been a bit error strewn, but that element of chaos ultimately is entertaining.
Yeah.
And with sort of 23 minutes to go, it makes you believe anything is possible.
Yeah, there was a wildness about this. As mentioned, Philippe is at the Bernabéu, so we'll check in with Philippe Auclair on the stroke full time, and he'll talk us through everything. We do want to touch on the fact that obviously Liverpool are in Rome tomorrow, and there's an interesting piece we recorded with Oliver Kay, and he's the chief football writer with the Times. He's also the author, by the way, of Forever Young, Adrian Doherty, The Lost Genius, which is a really good book. We spoke to him about that book before when it first came out. Adrian Doherty really is considered a bit of a lost genius around Old Trafford. He was there around the time of the Ryan Giggs. I think he was in Ryan Giggs' year, but certainly class of 92 territory, but didn't seem to have a huge amount of interest in some respects in making his life as a professional footballer. It's a really good book, and Kay did a really nice job in it. But we wanted to talk to him about a piece he wrote in the Times last week. Agostino Di Bartolomei is a name you may not be familiar with. So Agostino Di Bartolomei was there. If you look it up on Google Images, he's there shaking hands with Graham Souness in 1984 before the European Cup final. He was the Roma captain, a real hero, Di Bartolomei, and loved in Italy and certainly loved by Roma fans, but his life didn't turn out the way he might have expected, and within 10 years of that night, in fact 10 years to the night, he was dead. So we talked to Oliver Kay about the life of Agostino Di Bartolomei, and we started off mentioning that Liverpool game in 1984 when Liverpool were winning all those European Cups.
Yeah, it's, I think it was, what was it, the fourth in 8 years, wasn't it? Fourth in 8 seasons, 4th in 7 years. He was Roma's captain in 1984. The reason for writing about him was because, well, it's a little known story. I'm sure it's very, very well known in Italy, but I mean, the number of people who responded to me since the article saying, God, I had absolutely no idea about that, was the reason being he, as well as being Roma's captain that night, Obviously, Roma lost on penalties, Liverpool won on penalties, and 10 years later, to the day, he took his life, which is just awful, tragic. And it's this sort of remarkably sad story of this figure who seemed to be revered, not just in Rome, but in Italian football as this sort of bastion of manhood and of a sort of particularly intelligent, resolute kind of leader as Roma's captain of a very good team. And he took his life precisely 10 years later. And so I was just telling that story, and my hunch was that, when the draw was made for the semi-finals, my hunch was that people would not know this story and would be interested by it. I think that's been the case, really. It seems to have been, made people, certainly been a different dimension to the to those sort of 1984 flashbacks.
Yeah, it certainly struck us. So let's parse our way through his story and bring people from his footballing days through to that terrible night on May 30th, 1994. So you talked about his leadership. He was the, you say in your piece in the Times, he was the Italian football archetype in his play. He was that centre half or deep line midfield type player. And he was a real leader. He was Il Capitano. He took Roma to their first Serie A in 41 years in 1983. So when you think about that, a first Serie A in 41 years for the city of Rome, or certainly for Roma fans anyway, he was revered, to say the least. He was a hero.
Yeah, absolute hero, and even in those days, and they had Bruno Conti and Francesco Graziani, who were part of the Italian World Cup winning team from 2 years earlier. They also had Falcao and Toninho Cerezo, who were two members of the Brazil World Cup team. I mean, it was a star-studded team, really. But he was the one who, as captain, and I think he played in central midfield that night against Liverpool. I mean, he was the fans' hero, really, and the guy that was basically a sort of standard bearer for not just for fans but for his teammates. So that he was clearly speaking to people and speaking to Mark Haitley, who played with him in Milan years later, but also to journalists in Italy. I mean, they say he was just this guy who was everybody looked up to, and there's a sort of captain, leader, legend motif that John Terry, for example, went by at Chelsea, and Stephen Gerrard similar at Liverpool, and he seemed to be that type of figure, that the figurehead of the club, not just somebody who wore the armband, but somebody who, despite never actually playing for the Italian senior team, was a real figurehead and a real leader. An
interesting character, a thoughtful character. You included in your piece that when Roma did win that league title in '83, and you can imagine the pandemonium and the celebrations, that Di Bartolomei wrote a letter to the fans in which, as well as acknowledging the success and the happiness as well, urged them not to get too carried away with excessive celebrations. Not everyone wants to be disturbed. What a thoughtful thing to include. And you mentioned as well, he was asked, as I guess footballers are from time to time, to name your idol. His idol was not some footballer. No,
it was Giorgio Di Chirico. I think the name was an Italian sort of surrealist artist. So yes, not your typical footballer. But he said that message for to the fans after the title triumph. I think it was something about we mustn't fall into the trap of provincialism by celebrating to that. I mean, it probably sounded slightly dour in a way. Probably that sort of Roy Keane like joylessness in some ways. But but people were saying, people said to me that he was he was just deadly serious about football, about the business of winning matches, and about life. I mean, although he that you could mistake him for somebody who was dour, but he was just somebody who was ultra professional in the way he viewed football and the way he viewed it on the pitch and away from the pitch. But he just felt that, yes, let's celebrate it, but let's not go over the top. And I think they've won the league title once since then, and it's you probably should celebrate those days. You probably should go wild, whether it's all Ireland final or whether it's a Scudetto or the Champions League or whatever. But no, he was adamant they shouldn't fall into the trap of provincialism.
Yeah. So and not your standard character. I mean, we all know the Liverpool side of the story in '84, and the pre-match stuff I think has been well told, especially over the last week or so from Chris Ray and Souness leading around the pitch and everything else like that. Stevie Nicol famously missed his first penalty. Di Bartolomei scored Roma's first, but then there was the Bruce Grobler spaghetti legs, and we know what happened. The interesting thing, Oliver, is he was sold to Milan following that cup final.
Yeah, he was. I have to think. Was he 28 or 29? He was late 20s, and he was still felt to be in his prime. But he was sold. Nils Lidholm, who'd been Roma's coach, was replaced and went to AC Milan. Sven-Göran Eriksson was actually the coach who was coming in, another Swede who came out of Roma, and it quickly became apparent that he wasn't going to figure in Eriksson's plans. And that Lidholm would want to take him to Milan. So he went to Milan. He had 3 seasons there, and it was a fairly star-studded Milan team. And he was next to Ray Wilkins and Franco Baresi and Costa Curta. I think was there. Was Costa Curta or Tassotti perhaps? Gali, the goalkeeper, Mark Haitley, who was probably a fairly obscure signing at the time, following another obscure signing the previous summer, which was Luther Blissett. But it was a time when Milan were recovering from the scandal of one relegation and the embarrassment of another in the mid-80s. It was before the Dutch influx of Rijkaard, Van Basten, Gullit. And it was this sort of in-between Milan team. And he was apparently a very respected, influential member of that team. And I spoke to Mark Haitley about him, and he was raving about him, saying he would sometimes play in the central defence with Baresi sweeping, but he would normally play in midfield with Ray Wilkins, and he would just spray these passes around, sit in front of the back post for spray passes around, probably like the Pirlo role as we've come to know in later years. But he said that as well as a great player, he was this formidable character, somebody who again a great leader, would do anything for anybody. He recalled this time when they got back to the training ground Milanello late after a Sunday game, and they had this sort of retiro where they were staying there all week until they had a European game, probably a UEFA Cup game in the midweek, and he said everything was shut when they got there, and Di Bartolomei just sort of went to the kitchen and just cooked away and cooked an enormous meal for everybody, and he said that was one of his abiding memories of him as just this guy who would always just come up with the goods. Would just always help people out and deliver in that way, as well as on the pitch.
Yeah, funny, from your entire piece, I don't know why, I don't know, maybe the act of cooking a meal for somebody is a very warm and generous thing to do, and also the pragmatism that Milanello was closed and he just rolled up his sleeves and said, well, I'll sort it out, and cooked everyone a meal.
Yeah,
it's almost the most striking thing for me from the piece.
Italian footballers probably had better culinary skills than than most of their English counterparts, but it's still quite an undertaking, I think, to cook a meal at the drop of a hat for a whole squad of footballers.
Yeah, there's something lovely about it, as opposed to what the hell's going on here? Why isn't the cook here? And just sorting it out. I mean, I really like this guy already, I must say. You point out that you were sorry about that. We're just taking a short break from the pre-record with Oliver Kay, talking about the Roma captain, and we'll get back to it in one sec, but we wanted to update you on the game in Madrid. Nothing to update as such, Dan. It's still 2-2 on the night, 4-3 to Madrid, 10 minutes to go. The thing to tell people is it's wide open.
Yeah, I mean, there's You feel there's going to be another goal in this game either way. Bayern got a lot of situations, getting balls into the box, and they've tested Navas. At the same time, Ronaldo had a great chance to put it away in the break too. But they're not going to die wondering here. They're going to give it a bash for the last 10 minutes and see what happens. And if a concession happens, then so be it. They chase it.
Yeah, Gareth Bale is on. They've gone to 5 across midfield. Casemiro's on for Kovacic as well. And even though they've gone to 5 across midfield, Real Madrid are still wide open here, so there are chances for Bayern for sure. They've had 19 attempts, Bayern Munich, and they had 18 in the last leg, and Henke said they need to be more clinical, so I wonder what he'll make of this evening. 10 minutes to go. We're going to talk to Philippe Auclair at full time, who's at the Bernabéu, but we'll get back now to Oliver Kay talking about the Roma captain from the European Cup final against Liverpool in 1984, Agostino Di Bartolomei. You point out that he retires in 1990 at the age of 35, as you say in the piece in the Times. Italy is obviously in the grip of World Cup fever, so it's not like the world comes to a standstill. So doing the maths here, if he committed suicide, died by suicide on May 30th, 1994, 10 years on from that night against Liverpool in the European Cup final, his retirement in 1990 means those 4 years were obviously incredibly difficult for him. It seems severe depression. Do we know, Oliver, was it linked directly to the fact that he had lost his true love in football, or was he somebody, do we know, who struggled with his mental health even whilst he was playing?
It's not really known, to be honest. There's no... I don't think anybody has suggested that they were aware of him having mental health issues when he was playing. It came out... funny enough, I looked back at the Reuters reports and agency reports from the day, and it was, the first one is the first report said that he'd been found dead at his home and a gunshot had been fired. The second one said that there was a quote from the police that said that we found out that he'd been having some treatment. I think it had some treatment for depression. We don't know the cause of it. And then another report the next day had a bit more information. It was talking about how he'd been frustrated and sort of felt rejected, that he'd not been able to get a way back into football. I think he'd wanted to work for Roma again, or wanted to work for Milan, or had wanted to work as a coach or as a general manager or something, and he'd just been rejected at every turn. But he'd also tried other things. He'd tried a football school business. He tried an insurance business, and both of those had sort of, I don't know if belly up would be too excessive a way of putting it, but they hadn't worked out, and I think he closed both of those businesses down soon before. But I don't think anybody knows the true reason, really, and I suppose, we'll probably moving on to this, but I tried to contact his son Luca, who had written a piece in as a foreword to a biography of him, which is written in Italy, and he was sort of saying things like, please, whatever you were thinking that morning, please don't let it be because of football. Please don't let it be because it was this other, because of this match 10 years earlier. Why was it? Why was it, Papa? Why was it? It's heartbreaking reading this. You sort of seeing it. The son is sort of writing it as his 11-year-old self, really, and it's heartbreaking. But I wasn't able to contact him in terms of getting his perspective for the story. But it's I think that probably gives a good insight as any, really, and it tells you that there's still a sense of unknown from the family's point of view. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Because Di Bartolomei, he left a note to his wife and children, 2 children, telling them he felt he was trapped in a dark hole, and what a terrible plight for anyone to find themselves in, and for him to feel it was that inescapable is a terrible thing. You've pretty much answered the next question, and I presume the question that everyone has about him. It feels like too much of a coincidence that he does it on the 10-year anniversary of that European Cup final loss to Liverpool. And maybe it's a dreadful coincidence that the family now have to live with and mull over and try and parse their way through. But it is an extraordinary coincidence. I presume people are wary of putting forward any theories. The obvious, simple one you could say is, well, this haunted him to his dying day. But who knows? And mental health is so complex.
Yeah, and often I don't think that the sort of logic that might apply in other parts of life. I think often that there isn't that logic. People don't think logically in that situation. I'm guessing here, speculating here, and I shouldn't do that. So, but it does seem like it would be just the most almighty coincidence if it was a pure coincidence. That 10 years to the day. I'm just looking at it now. His son's line was, "I'm always told you couldn't really have thought about it. There'll be too much malice in that coincidence. Perhaps it just crept into you on that date, because I never believed, I don't want to believe that in that moment you thought about defeat in that stupid football game. Next to the greatness of human life, next to the love of a wife and 2 children, what was that stupid football match?" And it's I kind of want to believe Lucas' version, really, but it's as I said, the coincidence does seem overwhelming, and you don't want to speculate about the reasons because we just don't know. But it's just heartbreaking. And one of the guys I spoke to who had written a book on him, he said, we can't say for certain, but for someone who played in the European Cup final, the horizon sadly became too narrow. Loneliness, defeat on the field and in life, it had begun 10 years earlier. And that's it's just tragic, really. I mean, it's not like he had missed his penalty and been vilified or anything like that. He had converted his penalty brilliantly, and others had missed theirs, and there had never really been any suggestion that he was struggling to deal with the aftermath of the final. But I think it was more the struggle post football, and that maybe those regrets that were coming to a head around that anniversary, maybe it was a reminder of everything that he'd lost, and but just tragic. I've got a lump in my throat talking about it.
Yeah, it's dreadfully sad. The life and times of Agostino Di Bartolomei. So Oliver Kay, chief football correspondent with the Times. People can read your piece in the Times if they want to find out a bit more about him. Thanks so much, Oliver.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
There you are. That's Oliver Kay from the Times telling us about Agostino Di Bartolomei. Very sad story, and one maybe to touch on given events tomorrow. So Liverpool back in Rome, and I hadn't been familiar with the Bartolomei story at all. So very sad case. 89 minutes on the clock in the Bernabéu. Dan, it's Real Madrid 2, Bayern Munich 2. It's 4-3 on aggregate. It is now, I mean, it's high stakes throughout, but it is now unbelievably high stakes in that if Bayern score, there isn't enough time for Real Madrid, you would think, to sort things out. So we really are into next goal, the winner territory with 1 minute plus injury time to go. And this is open. Real Madrid cannot shut up shop.
Yeah, and they're trying to foul down the clock and time waste down the clock, and there's just been a foul there on Müller, I think it was, Thomas Müller, I think it was, racing through. I know they picked up a couple of yellow cards for a foul and for time waste and just a few things, They're just trying to see this out here, and I'm just, every little stoppage and every little opportunity to scramble a few seconds out has been seized upon here. We got Navas down claiming he's been done from a free kick that he's sort of fisted away for a throw-in.
There's a few Real Madrid players down
sort
injured.
Of the first 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan here, there's sort of bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's they're nervy, they're given these opportunities, but I still know we're waiting now as we tick slowly towards the stoppage time, but I suspect whatever we get, you can throw another minute onto that at least.
Yeah, Navas punched, there was a free in, Dan mentioned the fouling which is going on, so there was a dangerous free in and Navas came out and punched it clear, but has since gone down holding his hip, and there are Bayern Munich players over with the linesman and the referee pointing to their wrists as if to say, I hope you'll be adding this on. 5 minutes. Oh goodness, 5 minutes.
Make it 6. It's going to be 6 because they haven't even
started the 5.
They haven't played. In the 25 seconds that we've had, it's been out of play. So there's going to be 6. There could even be more. The way things are going.
Okay, 5-6 minutes. Navas is still not back in play. Thomas Muller's smiling at Sergio Ramos as if to say, we're both big boys, we know what's going on here.
We would do this if it was us, you know.
Yeah, Zidane's looking on, hands in pockets, and play is back underway. And it's going to be Bayern, you would think, for the next few minutes. Madrid are just going to sit deep. They're sticking balls in from crosses, and Madrid are trying to defend. Bayern at the moment, as there's a bit of head tennis going on in the box, have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in the Madrid box. It's that kind of a situation, and they have a corner. We'll take a very short break, and then we'll be back for the closing stages, and then Philippe Auclair will join us. So they're 1 minute into what we presume might be 6 of added time at least, and Bayern need to score to win, and if they do score, they go through.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the BoyleSports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
The Moncrief Show is on the road again, and this time we're in Tullamore. Join us on May the 4th when we'll be broadcasting Movies and Booze live from the Bridge House Hotel in the heart of Tullamore. Kick off the bank holiday weekend as we pop corks, eat good food, talk movies and drink the tastiest booze. Show what else would you want to do of a Friday. To be part of the audience, just go to newstalk.com/events and follow the link.
Movies and Booze on Moncrief.
Proudly sponsored by Carry Out Off Licence.
Every Friday on Newstalk.
At Expert Electrical, we're always bringing you the latest appliances and technology. For this week only, purchase a 6, 7 or 8 kg hot point washing machine or tumble dryer and supersize to a larger machine at no extra cost. With 67 stores nationwide, there's a local expert near you. Find yours at expert.ie.
Eastern philosophy from FBD Hotels. Go east and relax in our Castleknock Hotel, a nudge from the bright lights of Dublin. Refresh in our spa before cocktails in our Lime Tree Bar. Or go southeast and recharge at Faithleg, our majestic estate in Waterford. Find golf, a splash in the pool, or afternoon tea in our Aylward Lounge. Whatever you're looking for, find something you weren't, like great value 4-star deals at castleknockhotel.com or at faithleg.com.
Off the Ball. This is Newstalk.
Welcome back. Still 2-2. It's Bayern who need a goal to go through against Madrid. Madrid, for the first time in several minutes, are now on the attack. Bayern, just there, Dan, had a big enough chance. They worked. I mean, it was messy and there was a bit of head tennis going on, but there was a decision to cross when he should have just shot.
They could have done with Messi, to be honest, in that situation. It was Wagner, the ball fell to, and he just overplayed it. He was torn between the pass and the shot and sort of managed to master neither.
Yeah.
And just a bit of decision making at times that's killed them because it's been there for them.
Yeah, Madrid have a corner and they're taking them every time. Cruz is jogging very slowly over to take the corner. 5 minutes of out of time if you're just tuning in. And there may well be 6 or 7 because they took a while to get going once they reached injury time. This game started off brilliantly after just 3 minutes when Kimmich came up and scored a really, really good goal after plenty of indecision in the Madrid box. And then 8 minutes later, Benzema made it 1-1 on the night. An exceptional cross from Marcelo after a really good 28-pass Real Madrid move, and it was headed home by Benzema. So it was 1-1. And then a really good first half. Second half started disastrously for Bayern. A complete mix-up between Sven Ulrich and Tolisso, who passed the ball back blind, and Ulrich panicked and went to pick it up and then went to kick it, and he had Benzema running in on him, and the ball went right under Ulrich, the goalkeeper, and Benzema said thanks very much and tapped that into an empty net. That was on 46 minutes. And then James, 63 minutes, made it 2-2 on the night. Didn't celebrate. Fair enough, James, whatever.
He's on loan, I suppose, you know. He might end up back there.
Right.
You know.
But so 63 minutes, which means they have had exactly 30 minutes, Bayern, to effectively get the winner. They're on the attack again here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players, 6 players all ahead of the ball. They're out on the left-hand side. We're at 4 minutes and 50 seconds. There are supposed to be 5 minutes of added time. You would think there'll be a minute or two more. We're in to lob the ball into the box territory, which is not as hopeless a tactic as it sounds, because they've had a lot of joy with just balls chucked in You were saying earlier, Dan, it's not like all the goals have been brilliant. There's been plenty of just messy moments.
There's opportunities coming from there, and I suppose, you can't be too critical. There's a few tired mistakes sort of creeping in, after what's been a pretty manic game. I mean, the punters are on their feet because we're at 5 minutes 15, but there's got to be more time. There should be an inquiry if he blows it up now. There's at least another ball or two left in it.
Yeah. Bayern are passing the ball around their own halfway line, waiting for the perfect angle to knock it in. They probably just need to knock it in. It's kind of dunted up the left-hand side. They're trying to work it up the left-hand side further. Another player involved, but Madrid have everybody back. It's gone out for a throw, and Modric is saying to the referee, come on, what are you doing? Blow this thing up.
They need a long throw. They need Rory the Lap now.
Where is Rory the Lap?
Summoned for this moment. They go short.
Going to have to knock this in. Knock it in. For the love of God, knock it in. He tries to knock it in. Oh, chance. Oh, come on. Was it offside? It's full time. It's over. Madrid go through. Muller was stretching for a ball and just couldn't quite get there. And it is celebration for Real Madrid. Whew, what a game.
Magic, eh?
Yeah.
They just keep on winning.
Didn't even win tonight.
No, they keep. Yeah, they just do enough. I mean, yeah, they were bloody lucky, really. In terms of getting away with some of the mistakes that they did. And either maybe we overplayed a home-away thing sometimes, maybe just at the semi-final it's just, you shoot for the stars and you see what happens, but for a home performance it wasn't very polished, but doesn't matter really, Can you remember their previous semi-finals? I mean, you probably can if you think about it, but really it's all that matters at the end.
Yeah,
it counts.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I can remember them beating
probably
Bayern.
Should. I feel like people are screaming really. I mean,
I remember there was Bayern in the quarters last year. Did Madrid play in the semis last year?
They definitely played Atletico Madrid in a semi-final at some stage. I know they obviously played them in the finals.
Do you know what, Dan? I think you've proven your point.
Yeah, I think the point has been made.
Yeah.
Either that or we've got serious short-term memory loss issues we need to address very quickly.
Forgetting the greatest game of all time suddenly. So there's lots of Bayern Munich players shaking their head there. I mean, this was there for them. It's now, I was going to say 6 in a row they've lost to Madrid. They did draw this evening, but it's certainly 7 without managing to beat them, and Madrid go through. It's very hard to know how Liverpool will interpret performances like this from Madrid. On the face of it, you would say they'd look at it and think...
Roma or Liverpool.
Yes, sure. You would think they'd fancy their chances, but Madrid are just making too much of a habit of this.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, you enter a 90-minute game, and how if it is Liverpool, how do Madrid approach the challenge of playing the Liverpool team who... Roma gave them opportunities last week that you were very surprised by. You think you sit in and frustrate them and don't let those brilliant counter-attacking forwards in behind. But, could that suit Madrid? I mean, maybe it might. It's a sort of an intriguing combination if it does come to pass. I'm still loath to just be certain about it, given how a couple of these two-legged ties have played out. But it's certainly, it'll be an interesting clash of styles.
Philippe is pretty much ready to go at the Bernabéu. We will take a very short ad break and then we will come back with Philippe in just 1 second from the Bernabéu.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Have you thousands of photos on your phone or camera that you've been dying to print? Well, now's the time, because at Harvey Norman, we have an incredible half-price photo print offer. For a limited time only, print your favourite photos for just 10 cents each. At Harvey Norman, print photos from memory cards, USB keys, or wirelessly from smartphones. You can even print from your Facebook and Instagram account. 10 cents 6x4 photo prints at Harvey Norman. Don't miss out.
Go! From Grafton Street to Downton Grand, St Stephen's Green to the bright lights of the Strip, the GPO to Bellagio. There's now more ways you can fly to Las Vegas from Dublin with British Airways. Travel in style on new aircraft via Gatwick. Choose first or business class, premium or economy, and get fares with baggage, in-flight entertainment, food and drink included. Bet you're packing already? Book your trip to Las Vegas at your local travel agent or online at britishairways.com.
Hi, Dr. Eddie Murphy, clinical psychologist here. Do you have psoriasis and does it impact on your daily life? If so, you are not alone. Over 100,000 people in Ireland are affected by the condition. Psoriasis is treatable and can be managed. Join me and other experts for the Ask How I Feel Living with Psoriasis free public information evening, Thursday the 3rd of May at 6 p.m. in the Alex Hotel, Dublin, where we'll discuss techniques for managing psoriasis from the inside out. Visit askhowifeel.ie. Brought to you by Novartis in partnership with the Irish Skin Foundation.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. So, as promised, Philippe Auclair is standing by at the Bernabéu. Come in, Philippe.
Hello.
Ooh, it's an incredible line there at the Bernabéu.
Hello, guys.
How you doing? So, you picked a good match to go to. I mean, we'll get into analysis in a moment, but just for thrills and intensity and excitement, that was an amazing game.
It was absolutely astonishing, but I'm not too sure that it's a funny one, because you get the feeling that the best team lost and the best players went through. But to be honest, it was just action non-stop from one end to the other. Crazy defensive errors and bad positioning and so forth. And in the end, well, Real did what they do best, which is to qualify for a final. This is actually, the stats are becoming to be absolutely astonishing for Zinedine Zidane now with Real Madrid. But honestly, Bayern Munich, I think you'll agree with me, will have themselves to blame more than anybody else. The number of chances missed, the number of times when they could have created far more trouble than they did for Real Madrid is just unbelievable. But an absolutely cracking evening. Far better, it has to be said, than the first leg, which had been a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Madrid are prone to defensive lapses at the best of times. Yes. And we certainly saw it in the first goal, where Ramos and Varane combined beautifully to set up Kimmich. And it was always going to be a slightly dicey evening, because Vasquez was at right back. We talked about that pre-match. And Casemiro was on the bench, which was maybe an interesting choice under the circumstances. And even beyond that, just the general air of panic at times in the Madrid defence was shocking, really, when we're talking about a side going for 3 in a row.
Which is something that we'd also seen against Juve. And in particular, I mean, I think the return of David Alaba, I think, was absolutely crucial in creating that sense of panic. And yes, you could question the choice that Zidane did. But to be honest, there's nothing particularly new in what we saw in terms of defensive imbalance from Real Madrid's side. It's something we've seen in previous games. They don't look the most organized team. They're capable of sometimes putting together 5, 6, 7 pass moves, which are quite remarkable, easy on the eye. They've got some magnificent individualities, but you still get the feeling that this team is lacking organization, and that it is possible to get at them. And then you see the results one after the other, and year after the other, though this Real Madrid team probably is not as good as the ones of previous seasons. But it's a bizarre one, to be honest, because however much we enjoyed tonight's game, you cannot help but thinking that whoever is going to get to the final and is going to play against Real Madrid, be it Roma or Liverpool, will have a real chance. They will be looking at that, and there are loads of threads they can pick at. Let's not forget that this is a Bayern team which was shorn of some very important players. We thought that perhaps Neuer's absence wouldn't be so important. Well, we saw tonight that it was. We saw Lewandowski, who is the shadow of Lewandowski. But also, from a French point of view, I don't know what you thought about it, guys, but it's a bit galling to think that Frank Ribéry and Karim Benzema won't be going to the World Cup, because they were two of the best players on the pitch. Yeah. And so was Tolisso for a half as well. So mixed feelings, I would say, this end. Yeah, you mentioned Tolisso. I mean, it's funny, and the many Bayern chances notwithstanding, missed and opportunities missed, it's an extraordinary thing when a match of this calibre, and Dan and I here were just remarking on it, when a match of this calibre can be decided by such a silly moment as the Benzema second goal. I presume it was as comical and unbelievable in the stadium as it looked on TV. It was comical, unbelievable, whatever you would want to call it. I still don't quite understand as well the reaction. I mean, the back pass is a dangerous thing to attempt, by all means. But you have to wonder what the keeper is actually thinking of here as well, because there probably were other methods to deal with even a bad ball like this than letting it go under your body and let an open goal to Benzema, even if it were to give an indirect free kick in the box. I mean, that was very, very strange, and at the worst possible time for Bayern, it has to be said.
I mean, you could see the thought process almost in some ways, and it was almost understandable where the back pass was played blind, and then initially with Benzema very much closing in, the keeper's thought was just to get there and get his hands on it. Then he realised it was a back pass. Then he realised I have to kick it. And by the time he realised that his left foot as opposed to his right foot was the way to go, he was just in all sorts of trouble. I mean, he wouldn't have made the mistake if Benzema hadn't read the pass and put pressure on him. So in that respect, you could say it was good play from Benzema. But still, it was just hard to believe it happened.
Yes, indeed. And obviously, you know, the decisive moment in a tie that was so well balanced. Again, I think you've got to say that the absences on Bayern's side were absolutely crucial, and obviously the question will be asked: all these chances missed, all these domination in terms of possession. I mean, the stats are quite unbelievable for a game at the Bernabéu. Is it that Bayern are suffering from the absence of competition that they've got in their own league? That in their own league they get 10 chances, 15 chances, 20 chances per game, and then, you know, if you put in 1 out of 4 or 5, you're fine. When you're playing against Real Madrid, well, they got loads of chances, but again, they were a little bit awkward in front of goal. You can argue about that. It is a very, very strange feeling to, after seeing such an exciting, open, crazy game, to feel that you haven't seen teams which are perhaps at the top of their powers, and that the football could have been actually much better than what we saw. It was exciting, but was it great football? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, Philip, that actually just touches on what I was going to ask you, because naturally, you know, the decisive moment of the tie, as we discussed, is the mistake. But do you think maybe in time will Bayern reflect on elements of the first leg, and particularly, you know, the second half of the first leg, where I mean, maybe it was the lack of competition you mentioned. They were just a bit lethargic, or there was something not quite sharp about it then, which created this task for them tonight.
Yes, I mean, it's all part of the same, you know, it's all part of the same problem. Is lack of competition is one thing, lack of sharpness of some of their more important players. And again, you've got to say, we were expecting far more of a reaction from Lewandowski after what we'd seen in the first leg than what we saw tonight, because again, it was not the sharp striker that we've known for so many years. And again, I come back to that, the absences, the fact that, you know, when you don't have a Neuer, we also saw what Alaba brought tonight. I mean, you know, it's absolutely remarkable, the difference he made to the team's performance. The absence of Kingsley Coman as well, for example, who is bringing a little bit of je ne sais quoi, more pace perhaps, which was missing at times, and so on. But here we are talking about Bayern. But on the other hand, we've got a team which is in the final yet again. Not the greatest Real incarnation of Real we've ever come across. But you've got to start to ask yourself, what is Zinedine Zidane doing which is so right, that he's bringing a group of players who are excellent individualities, who sometimes look a bit disjointed, and they always find the solution. They always found the answer to the questions, and the very tough questions, which are being asked of them by the opposition. What he's achieving is actually quite remarkable, especially taking into account the fact that Real Madrid have been far from convincing in their own league. It's a matter of some surprise, I must say, to us as well, because we were not expecting perhaps Zidane to have such an impact as a manager that he's had.
Yes, it's an amazingly interesting story, and their achievements are certainly not in keeping with how people regard this team, and yet we're going to have to rethink the way we talk about them. It's almost disrespectful Indeed. At times.
Absolutely.
Before you go, I presume, like everyone, you fully expect Liverpool to be in Kiev with Real Madrid, but there's always that sense that anything could happen, as actually the knockout stages over the last 2 years in particular have proven.
Yeah, no. I don't expect anything anymore. Listen. You can have a red card after 9 minutes, after 8 minutes, after 30 seconds, and then Liverpool find themselves 10v11, and then you're in a very different situation. But on the other hand, yes, I would expect, like you, Liverpool to go through and have a final, which actually I think the last time they played each other in the final was in Paris, wasn't it?
81, is it?
I think it was at the old Parc des Princes.
Yeah.
So good memories for the Reds, but they've got to get there first.
Yes, it's true. Okay, Philippe, at the Bernabéu, wherever you are you in the basement at the Bernabéu?
I'm in the basement. That's the way to describe it, yes.
Okay, well, we appreciate you going there. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Philippe Auclair at the Bernabéu with his thoughts on things. And Jurgen Klopp will finish on, I guess, looking ahead to tomorrow. He was talking just this evening. He's done his press conference over in Rome, and they were putting it to him that, well, the second leg in Manchester didn't... or the second leg was in Anfield. Second leg was in Manchester.
Of the previous tie. Yes, Manchester,
Yeah, sorry. So he was asked if City's bright start that night is going to go into making up his team talk ahead of tomorrow night.
I know what you mean, but it's not that we needed that game to know about it. That's the nature of the game. The game can turn in any minute. So it's all about us to be active, to do what we are good in, and we are difficult to play. Not to forget, we are really difficult to play, and it's just like it is. There's no perfect plan for it. It's not that you can say you do it exactly like this and it will work 100%. You only can work for probability. That we really have probably in this or this situation, we have a little bit of space. We can then cause problems here or there. That's all what we can do, and then we have to play it. And then you need to. If you really want to win, you have to accept beforehand that you could lose. So, and you're still to be really brave and not waiting until you lose. You need to be brave. We need to be brave. We need to play football, really. We need to be active and all that stuff and use their situation much more than they can use their situation, because they have to win against us. And if you have to win against us, you need to take a risk. And if we are concentrated, then it's difficult to score. And if they need to take more risk, then there will be moments when we have to use it. That's how it is. And all the other games at Anfield was an open game. It was not that they scored after we were 5-0 up. Before that they had chances, but we had even more chances. Not to forget, nobody spoke about that afterwards. So we could have, it's crazy enough, but we could have scored 7 or so. That is not disrespectful. It's only possible. Yes, Rome had in the beginning Strootman, Kolarov, these really good chances or good shots. But we had Sadio Mane could have scored twice long before he scored, then finally in the second half. And Mo Salah had other chances and all these things. So it's not decided. That's all. We know what can happen, and then we need to show in the game the right reaction and not here in the press conference.
Yeah, all makes sense. It's interesting, the curve of the evolution of European football. You think of those Rafa Benitez, Jose Mourinho days, and it was, who's going to score first and sit back and defend a lead, which were entirely grim. And then we had Manchester United briefly and a level of English dominance, and then the Barcelona years. We now seem very nicely to have swung into an element where it's all about attack and there's goals and it's unpredictable and mad things are happening. I'm very much enjoying this period in European football.
The Harlem Globetrotter era, as we know.
It's true, though.
Well, I mean, there is this debate about should you get rid of the away goal rule, because do you need it anymore? Because the away goal rule was all about discouraging negative play, effectively. There was an element of that, and I mean, it would make a big difference in the earlier rounds for minnows and smaller teams who live by it, but there is an argument at the elite stage that once you get to the round of 16, you don't need it. But I mean, it's working fine without it anyway. So maybe the lesson here is don't screw around with something here. But I guess the away goal element adds this 3-0 thing for Roma tomorrow, and they go through. But maybe that is the excitement of it as well. But no, certainly there's no reason to complain. The competition's building nicely. I know people complain about the groups, but in a certain way, this makes this all the better. You take the rough with the smooth.
Even with the Buvac backdrop at Liverpool, you expect them to go through?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You just expect that they will score. You expect they will score, and then you're asking Roma to score 4. Yeah, I think that's where you get to a level. You think they'll score, and that should be enough.
Okay. We are pretty much done for this evening. Tomorrow, OTBAM live 7:45. Dave McIntyre on presenting duties with Anthony Moyles in all the usual places. Check out our social channels and you'll find it. Just time to tell you our mystery voice tonight is, of course, Kevin Kilban. Congratulations to Gerald O'Reilly, who has won tonight's prize of tickets to see Alanis Morissette in concert. And thanks to British Airways, at the end of the week, we have a fabulous 5-day trip for two to Vegas. Return flights, 5 nights in the 5-star Venetian Hotel, and €1,000 spending money to give away. We'll give you another chance to enter our daily British Airway tickets competition tomorrow. And we've got Kenny Cunningham here with Kev on the football show tomorrow. And we've got a special road show coming to you from the Mansion House rugby special, building up to the Champions Cup final in Bilbao. And with thanks to Don McDonnell, and Tom Dunn is on the way. Good luck.